If a man sends these 9 texts, it's a sign he's not interested in you. Are you tired of waiting for that special guy to respond to your messages, only to get a one-word response? Or perhaps you've been wondering why he always cancels plans or takes days to respond to your texts. In this video, I'll show you 9 signs that a man isn't interested in you over text. Knowing these signs can save you time and heartache by helping you recognize when it's time to move on. Before we get started, please press that red button to subscribe to our channel and comment "I've subscribed" so we can thank you. Number 9. He uses one-word responses. It can be really disheartening when you're trying to build a connection through text and all you get are those one-worded responses. If a guy keeps hitting you with "okay," "sure," or "yep," it's pretty clear that he's not into the conversation or getting to know you better. And if you're the one that's always asking questions or starting the chat, but he only replies with those short answers, it's a safe bet that he's not too keen on keeping the conversation going. Of course, there may be times when one-worded response is appropriate, such as when you're asking a simple question that only requires a brief answer. However, suppose you're attempting to have a meaningful conversation and he consistently responds with one-word answers. In that case, it may be time to reassess your communication and decide whether it's worthwhile to continue putting forth the effort. Number 8. Delayed responses. If you're constantly left waiting for hours or even days for a reply, it could be a major red flag that the person you're talking to may not be invested in the conversation or you. And let's be real, it can be incredibly frustrating and confusing to decipher whether they're simply busy or uninterested. Now, before you start panicking about that delayed response that you just received, remember that everyone has different communication styles and schedules. It's possible that a delay in response every once in a while might not mean anything at all. It's important to keep in mind that texting is a two-way conversation, both parties contributing to the flow of the conversation. If you're the one consistently sending messages and not receiving the same level of effort in return, it's time to reassess the relationship and decide whether it's worth pursuing. After all, you deserve someone who is just as invested in the relationship as you are. Number 7. He gives you generic responses. These are a major communication roadblock that can quickly kill a conversation's momentum. They're those non-specific, uninspired answers that leave you feeling unfulfilled and like you're doing all the work in the conversation. Think about it. Have you ever shared something personal or exciting with someone only to receive a response like "cool" or "okay"? These generic responses are not only frustrating, but they can also be hurtful because they imply a lack of interest and investment in the conversation. While there may be times when a generic response is appropriate, such as acknowledging a joke or piece of information, if you're trying to have a meaningful conversation and the other person consistently responds with non-specific answers, it can be a sign that they're not interested in engaging with you on a deeper level. So the next time you receive a generic response, take a step back and consider the context of the conversation. Are you trying to have a meaningful discussion, or is it a lighthearted exchange? If you're putting in the effort to initiate and maintain the conversation, but the other person isn't reciprocating with meaningful responses, it may be time to reevaluate the relationship's dynamic. Number 6. There's a lack of questions. Have you ever found yourself asking all the questions in a text conversation? If the answer is yes, you may want to pay attention to this red flag. Lack of questions from a guy you're speaking with can be a sign that they're not interested in getting to know you better. Think about it. When you're interested in someone, you naturally want to learn more about them. You ask questions about their interests, experiences, and thoughts. But if you constantly ask questions and you're not receiving any in return, then it's a cause for concern. Of course, it's possible that he's just shy or doesn't know what to ask. But if you consistently finding yourself in a situation where you're doing all the questioning and not receiving any engagement in return, it might be time to reassess the relationship. Number 5. He does not initiate. In a relationship, both parties must initiate conversations and be willing to engage. However, if you find yourself consistently initiating all the conversations, this could be a sign that he's not as invested in the relationship as you are. If the other person isn't interested in starting conversations or getting to know you, it could suggest that they're not interested in pursuing a deeper connection. Number 4. Lack of enthusiasm. This can manifest itself in several ways. As mentioned earlier, he may reply with short one-word responses or respond slowly to your messages. He could also refrain from asking follow-up questions or expressing interest in your thoughts or experiences. One sign of a lack of enthusiasm is when you share a personal accomplishment or exciting news with a guy, and he responds with a casual "cool" or "okay." This response can be frustrating and hurtful because it implies that he isn't concerned about your happiness or success. Number 3. Non-committal responses. When getting to know someone, it's crucial to communicate your intentions and desires openly and honestly. However, receiving non-committal responses from a guy could be a sign that they aren't interested in you. Non-committal responses can take various forms, but they all involve the other person avoiding making concrete plans or expressing a clear interest in the relationship. In response to your suggestions for a date or activity, he might say things like, "We'll see," or "maybe." Non-committal responses can be frustrating and confusing because they leave you unsure of your position with him. They may imply that he's unwilling to commit to the relationship or put in the time and effort required to develop a deeper connection. Number 2, he avoids personal topics. If someone is uninterested in you, they almost always avoid discussing personal topics. This can range from family to their life goals and friends. But how can you tell if they avoid discussing personal topics over text? A few red flags will indicate he's avoiding personal topics. First, suppose he consistently responds to your questions with vague or non-committal responses. In that case, it may indicate that they're not interested in discussing personal topics with you. For example, if you ask them about their hobbies or interests and they respond with a response such as, "not much," it may indicate that they are unwilling to share more about themselves. Another red flag is if he's constantly changing the subject when you bring up personal topics. Suppose you ask them about their family and they quickly change the subject. In that case, it may indicate that they're uncomfortable discussing personal matters with you. Number 1, inconsistent communication. If someone is inconsistent in their text communication with you, it should indicate that they are not interested in a relationship. Inconsistent communication can show up in different ways, such as taking a long time to respond to your messages or only contacting you occasionally. These patterns can be frustrating and confusing, making it difficult to know where you stand with the other person. One possibility for inconsistent communication is that the other person is talking to multiple potential partners and isn't able to give you the time and attention you deserve. Alternatively, they may be unsure about their feelings for you and are hesitant to make a commitment. Regardless of the reason, inconsistent communication can be disheartening when you're seeking a meaningful relationship. In conclusion, by paying attention to these signs, you can start to get an understanding of how interested in a guy may be. Keep in mind it's important to consider his preferred communication style. Some people simply prefer talking on the phone or using FaceTime. If that's the case, you're unlikely ever get much out of them when it comes to texting. If you feel we missed any signs, please let us know in the comments section. And while you're at it, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We'll be back with another exciting video soon.